Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. It's Cody Gotham's Caped Crusader, and we're keeping it geekly. This is your number one source for comic books, video games, and all things from the geek culture. And before we dive in to that brand new, fresh, off the press geekly news, I would like to take a moment to kind of address the elephant in the room and kind of break the ice. So my affiliation with Talk Geekly is effectively severed. I am no longer a part of that group. Tom and myself got into a dispute, and just pretty much putting facts out there, I was removed from the Facebook group in a couple step process. You know, I was demoted from editor to admin and then just kicked altogether. Instead of fight for the brand and pout and complain, I took a week to kind of just reflect on what I wanted to do content wise, and I needed to create a structure, and I wanted to have an idea where we wanted to go. For me, being consistent and having a strong idea and plan is essential for just anything you're trying to do. Anything you're trying to do 110% with heart and passion. So with that being said, guys, we are going to be striving to bring you a weekly program where I cover comic books, video games, and all things geek culture. We're going to be mixing in indie games. We're going to be doing everything and anything I can get my grubby little hands on. So without further hesitation, let's dive into that geekly news that you all came here for, fresh off the press. One of the biggest things stirring the hornet's nest this week has been Sony Studios turning down Days Gone 2 for a remake of The Last of Us. Now, we've already gotten a remastered for the PS4, so this will be a complete remake for the PS5. So it looks like Sony Blend is actually beginning work on a new game after unsuccessfully pitching Days Gone 2. One thing I want to reflect is I did get the opportunity to play the first Days Gone, and while it was an awesome third-person shooter, it kind of lost its heat after a while. Everything kind of felt rinse and repeat, and after a certain point, it just felt, it felt like you were pretty much in God mode outside of the hordes, and the hordes after a while became easy once you understood the functionality of them. Now, do we need another Last of Us remake? Probably not. I would say, the one on PS4 should suit everything just fine. At this point, they're just riding the tailcoats of the success of The Last of Us Part 2, especially since it won Game of the Year. Why not milk the cow for a little bit more, cheddar in the bank? And then as we can see here, the head of PlayStation Studios, Herman Holst, apparently deemed the project too expensive. So then we seen support move to the development of The Last of Us Part 2. That's something that I really never even knew about. So while news of this title leaking now, beginning to see production, might be new to all of us, this is something that's been pre-planned for quite some time before even The Last of Us 2 dropped. Now, it's a shame that Days Gone 2 didn't get a chance to see light of day. Yes. Do we need another Last of Us remake or remastered? Probably not. But only time will tell, and who's to say maybe this remake might be something that is going to be worth the time and money, because The Last of Us 2 did not have a multiplayer, and I will be the first to admit that the multiplayer in the first one was just phenomenal. So moving on to the next hot topic of news, it looks like Call of Duty Warzone has cracked down once again with over 15,000 cheaters being banned. So it looks like on April 7th, the ban wave hit over 15,000 accounts. Developer Raven Software said, and Activision isn't stopping there with its ongoing war against cheaters. Raven Studios is quoted saying, "More to come, putting all cheaters worldwide on notice." So on the front lines against cheaters, it looks like Raven has accumulated over 300,000 banned accounts. Raven has been stopping cheaters dead in their tracks since the launch of Warzone, and with a growing player base of just millions and millions of people, it is an undeniable feat to stay on their toes and keep these cheaters at bay. So it looks like Activision really is beefing up their security. Here's just a small list of things that they are implementing and things we can look forward to. Enhancements to internal anti-cheat software, additional detection technology, adding new resource dedicated to monitoring and enforcement, regular communication updates on progress, more two-way dialogue, zero tolerance for cheap providers, and consistent and timely bans. With speculation gearing that Warzone is going to be ending Season 2 around April 22nd, I mean, it's honestly only given that they're going to be beefing up security and really clamping down on getting and eradicating cheaters out of the game to make way for new players. And to be honest, I really can't blame them. With the new oncoming player base that's sure to grow from the upcoming content, whether it's going to be a new Season 3 or some sort of new event, who wants to play with a lobby full of cheaters? They're just going to take away from that experience. And I think that gives us the perfect segue for our last piece of news this week. It looks like Microsoft is in talks to acquire Nuance Communications for a reported whopping $16 billion. Microsoft is actually in advanced talks to acquire Nuance Communications for the whopping $16 billion, according to a report from Bloomberg. This is a public traded company that is specializing in an AI, very controversial, for applications in healthcare, telecommunications, automotive, and financial services. And after a really quick Google search, it would appear that there's actually a 15-page lawsuit in Cook County Circuit Court claiming that Nuance Communications misuses software for the likes of FedEx and various other customer service calls on a daily basis. Now, why Microsoft would want to buy a company like this, who knows? I know that Bill Gates is making leaps and bounds in the healthcare field, but why Microsoft as a company would want to take over something of this nature kind of baffles me to a certain degree. I guess right here, it looks like Microsoft has actually teamed up with them in the past on healthcare related deals. So I guess that right there kind of answers my question. Now, with this being the $13 billion price tag, this is actually going to be Microsoft's second largest deal to date, behind the purchase of LinkedIn. I forgot how much Bethesda was. What is up with Microsoft buying out all of these companies lately? It sort of seems like they're becoming a monopoly of sorts. I know there was the April Fool's joke of them actually buying Discord, but it looks like Discord was in the works to be bought out. And then $7.5 billion acquisition of ZeniMax. It looks like Microsoft is really stopping at no ends to accumulate anything and everything they can. With that being said, guys, that does wrap up this week's Geekly News. But stay tuned. We do have some fresh polls coming right up for you. And man, oh man, are they some heavy-hitting titles. So the very first book we're going to be starting off with this week is going to be Batman issue 107, written by James Tynion IV, with art being done by Jorge Jimenez. Now, this issue starts off strong, with the Scarecrow pushing Batman down the hall, who is subdued, drugged, and in a wheelchair, fighting for his sanity against the fear toxin. This gives us a rather beautiful introductory to The Cowardly Lot Part 2. We cut to a panel of Batman running down the streets of Gotham with various news outlets reporting on the overwhelming tension and fear and panic that is inducing within Gotham. While one news outlet is reporting on A-Day, which was Scarecrow's attack on Arkham Asylum that left hundreds dead in its wake, we see others reporting that there's been spikes in purchases of gas masks online. Other ones saying, grocery stores are being looted left and right. And, of course, you have the one sprinkled in between saying this is a government hoax. Things are not looking good for Gotham, and everyone is wondering, when will everything end? With supervillain attacks such as the Joker and Bane happening not too long ago, is it too soon for another one to be stepping up to the mantle? And I think this sets the perfect prelude for Future State. You see a lot of that begin to kind of just make sense and click. How did Gotham get so regulated and grow into a military state that it became in Future State? And this is setting the groundwork for it perfectly. We come across Batman observing a crime scene, and things are just a little too good to be true. There's no trace of fear toxin anywhere. Next thing you know, the lights shoot on, and we are introduced to Commissioner Renee Montoya. And I am led to believe this was Mayor Nakano's place of residence. I'm not 100% sure on that, so if I'm wrong, leave a comment down below letting me know. Now, these two have a very, very tense standoff with each other, with Renee just telling Batman to get out of there. And I think this is a subtle nod to what to expect, within the relationship between these two. We then cut to Electric Town with this masked anti-hero or vigilante. I don't even know. I just know this guy is running around stabbing people and Harley Quinn comes on a motorcycle beating him down with a ball bat. She introduces herself as Batman's sidekick, saying he would not be happy if she allowed this. And it's not too long before Harley gets herself in some trouble when she then takes the face off of a police officer who catches her by surprise. Ghostface then teleports out of nowhere to save the day. And Harley, of course, is really reluctant to leave because she has that nice fancy motorcycle she just got. As soon as she is out of sight, though, this mysterious lady appears on the scene. I wasn't sure who this was. I just know she was guarded by these two green, ghoulish-looking dogs. And this kind of is really giving me a bounty hunter vibe, to be honest with you. Now, to kind of tie things up, we do travel back to Clock Tower with a meeting between the Oracle and Bats. While in Midtown, Mr. Saints is visited by none other than the Scarecrow. Mr. Saint, as we've seen in the previous issue, is, I believe, the founder of the Magistrate. So I might be wrong on that one as well. I'll have to do a little bit more digging. But it was just interesting to see these two kind of have a more reoccurring meeting in almost every issue, just setting that groundwork for future state. Now, this also gives us a little bit of a backstory on Ghostmaker. Now, this is an issue I really highly recommend picking up. It kept me on my toes, and it's building that anticipation for something that is just going to be undeniably crazy, which is going to give me the perfect segue for our second book of the week, God of War Fallen Gods, issue number 2, written by Chris Robertson, with art being done by Tony Parker. We begin with Kratos awakening in this desolated and empty area, brought here by Athena, and it's time for him to embrace his destiny, whether he wants it or not. Kratos keeps lashing out, asking why it's him, why it's not enough that he just lost everything, and he's cursed to walk this world. But Athena is pretty insistent that he just needs to return home and fulfill his destiny. And then we see Kratos really wake up, and this time he's at that old village in front of the old shaman that we seen before in issue number 1. Now, this was a little bit more of a unique panel, seeing Kratos waking up from this dream within a dream and seeing this old shaman once again, who is just also insistent that this is his destiny, this is where he belongs, and he needs to stop running. Kratos is extremely reluctant to fulfill this, though, as we see him continue to run from the Chaos Blades. We see him travel many, many miles throughout different lands and terrain in different seasons, only to come back to the same village from which he fled. Now, this was another pivotal moment in the story. No matter where he runs, he always comes back to the same place. This time, it's a little bit different, though. The villagers look in fear, but they flock to him. We see them praise him. And then we see that they are actually worshiping him, that he's the savior that is going to save them from the Chaos Beast, which is a pretty gnarly sight to behold. But Kratos has had enough. No god, no man is going to compel him. And this is not his destiny. He is going to do what he wants. So he lashes out once again in rage. And everybody disappears. He has no idea where any of the villagers are at. And then we see the Chaos Beast emerge. And it's time for Kratos and the Chaos Beast to go head to head. And that's where I'm going to leave you off with. So this was another issue I thought was kind of a little bit more filler. It is bringing that story. It is bringing, I guess, a little bit of that anticipation, but the action is just not there quite yet. And I am suspecting that issue number 3 is going to be fulfilling that desire for me. So coming off an issue that, for lack of better words, did not have a lot of action, we are going to be diving head first into one that is just swinging and punching its way from start to finish. We're going to be taking off with Suicide Squad issue number 2, written by Robbie Thompson, with art be done by Eduardo Pansica. Now, like I stated, this issue is just action-packed from start to finish. We begin with Peacemaker going head-to-head with the inmates at Arkham Asylum. Finding himself the newly appointed leader of the Suicide Squad, his mission is actually to retrieve none other than William Cobb, aka Talon. Both are fighting against guard and inmate as the Joker gas is slowly but surely engulfing everything within the asylum. Things are getting hectic, and we are seeing punches, kicks, and just teeth getting broken galore. Both are fighting guards and inmates as the Joker gas is slowly but surely just engulfing everything. We get a real quick panel at Waller, who's kind of just losing her composure over the situation, when in jumps Superboy. Yes, that's right. Waller has found a way to control Superboy. Alongside him is a ragtag bunch of crew. We have Mind Warp, Nocturna, Exit, and Colibra. This fight ensures, and the Suicide Squad, equipped with special masks, are not only taking down the remaining guards and inmates, but also trying their best to rescue everyone. Supes is far too concerned with saving everyone instead of completing the mission. This leads Mind Warp and Exit to becoming Jokerfied and thus dying. Peacemaker is none too happy about that, and we see this fight ensure between the both of them as Peacemaker very well reminds Superboy he is the leader and Superboy is the one to follow orders. While we are back at the Suicide Squad headquarters, we do get a little bit of insight on Waller's next plan of action, and this one includes a little bit of speed. Well, that does wrap up this week's podcast. I really appreciate everyone that's taken time to tune into today. If you haven't already, be sure to hit us with a like. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to hit that big red subscription button and turn on notifications to be alerted anytime I drop new content. I'm going to strive to be bringing a once-a-week production with hopes for 2 in the near future. So Geeks and Geekettes, do stay tuned. Be sure to hit me with a follow on any of my respective social media platforms. We're on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and so much more at Job for a Cody. And as always, guys, keep it geekly.